Hey, everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Mayoko at NBC Sports Bay Area. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment. Love to hear what you have to say. Today, I'm going to be talking about the trade deadline coming up on November 5th, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Going to really focus in on one area. I know there was a lot of talk about could the 49ers add a wide receiver in the trade market. There have already been a lot of receivers flying off the board as teams kind of got an early start at the wide receiver market. I don't necessarily see that as the 49ers' top concern. I think it's defensive line, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, this is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery. Obviously, a brewery, it's a restaurant, beer garden, and it's in a very family-friendly atmosphere in Moraga. So if you haven't been there, in the comments section, tell me if you're going to be there or you're planning a trip because I'm right down the street. Who knows? You never know when I might just pop by. And also coming soon to the Livery in Danville. It's going to be a great location there if you're familiar with the Livery. A lot of great shops and restaurants and just a great place to hang out. And so Canyon Club Brewery coming to the Livery should be great. A great space there. So if you go, who knows? You might run into me and be sure to say hi. Okay, so let's talk about the defensive line for the 49ers. You know, when you look at it, 20 sacks in 8 games, it's not too much out of whack with the rest of the NFL, especially when you look at the pressures and everything else. I mean, clearly, Nick Bosa is the 49ers' top pass rusher. After that, there's a significant drop off, but not necessarily a significant drop off when it comes to the numbers. As far as, you know, Kevin Givens has 3 sacks. I think Malik Collins, 3 sacks. Leonard Floyd, 3 sacks. So Samuel Kawanu has provided the 49ers with a nice little bump from the pass rush as well. And he's somebody who can line up outside on base downs and then slide inside to rush the passer. This last game against the Dallas Cowboys, he lined up next to Bosa and got a 3rd down sack. But if you're looking at areas where the 49ers can make a dramatic improvement in the second half of the season, I look at not necessarily the pass rush as a whole, the numbers there, but how the pass rush affects the game as far as 3rd downs. The 49ers' 3rd down success rate on defense has not been good compared to what it's been in the past. And I think that that's an area where the 49ers could tighten things up, put more pressure on the quarterback, make things a little bit more tenuous for whomever they're playing, because I think the defensive backfield has played very well, especially the cornerback position. Probably the best depth the 49ers have had a cornerback in quite some time, with Charvarius Ward, who's been admittedly up and down this season. Diamador Lenore has really come into his own as a top flight corner. And then Renardo Green certainly shows signs of being a guy who's going to be a long-term starter for the 49ers. I think it's a foregone conclusion. He'll be a starter next year, as the 49ers will not be able to bring back both of their starting cornerbacks. And then behind him, Isaac Yiadom, I think, had been playing pretty well at the point where the 49ers said, Renardo Green, it's now your turn. Show us what you can do. And he has shown the 49ers what he can do. Okay, so the defensive line, the pass rush in particular, we'll probably hit on a couple of defensive tackles as well. Where it goes, who's the most, the one thing I have a difficult time figuring out is just how teams value draft picks. 49ers have had a really good draft, or it looks like they had a good draft in 2024, getting some guys at basically all areas of the draft that has helped them, including an undrafted rookie or two. Evan Anderson, undrafted rookie, has made his way onto the 53-man roster. But the team has really gotten a lot of contributions from that class, really beginning with their 3rd-round pick, Dominic Pooney, who earned the starting job. There was an opening for him at the very beginning of training camp, and he seized it. And the one area where the 49ers really struggled last season was right guard. He has stepped in and played very well. I think the offensive line has meshed very well this season too, and they seem to be just kind of getting better and better continuity-wise as the season progresses. So going back to the defensive line, and what it would take to get these players I don't know. I mean, clearly the 49ers wouldn't be giving up, you know, a first, second, or third round pick, I don't think, or a fourth round pick for the guys that I'm going to mention here. And so, what they would do to part ways with or to acquire any of these players remains to be seen. But I don't know exactly how I'd rank them. Um, I think ideally for the 49ers, they wouldn't want to tie up much money at all into next season or the season after. So that's why I think like DeForest Buckner, although not an outside pass rusher, DeForest Buckner is a guy that, there's been some talk that he could be on the trade market. But I really don't think the 49ers, as good as DeForest Buckner is, I don't think they want to devote $23 million next year and $23 million in 2026 to acquire him. So let's just kind of take him off the market. And I would say the same thing with Harold Landry from the Tennessee Titans. He is signed through 2026 with what I would consider big money of $17.5 million the next two seasons after this. So I wouldn't consider Harold Landry part of that. And those are two guys, Landry and Buckner, that people have talked about as potential trade, on the trade market for any team that wants them and it's willing to pay the price, obviously. Okay, so let's focus in on the guys that maybe are in play. Should we start off with Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants? The New York Giants are 2-6, but yet they have 35 sacks this season, far and away more than any team in the NFL. And Ojulari is in the final year of his contract. Right now, he has 6 sacks. The Giants are in a position, I think, that they would want to re-sign him, but maybe behind the scenes, they feel like they can't re-sign him, that he's kind of playing himself out of that. So do you make the trade now to try to get something, or do you hold on to him and then expect maybe to get a third round compensatory pick down the road? My guess is that they would hold on to him for that purpose, try to re-sign him in the offseason while you have sole negotiating rights. And then if you do lose him, potentially you get a better draft pick a year from now than what you would get next season. But he would be certainly a guy that could probably help any team in the NFL. Another guy that comes to mind, two guys that come to mind, one with a 49ers tie, that's Arden Key from Tennessee. Now he's signed through next season at a very reasonable price, $6.5 million. So I could definitely see that. Arden Key, who has that flexibility when he was working with Chris Kosarek with the 49ers to play outside pass rusher on base downs or outside on base downs and then move inside and rush the passer inside in nickel situations. I think that would be a really good addition to the 49ers to then be able to have, the kind of pass rush on those nickel downs, say third and long, where you really don't have to worry about the run. You could have Nick Bosa on one end, Leonard Floyd on the other end, and then Sam Okawanu and Arden Key rushing from the inside. So Arden Key is somebody potentially to keep an eye on. Do we even bring up Chase Young? Chase Young signed a 1-year contract with the New Orleans Saints in the offseason. So he would be available. Only 2 sacks so far for the Saints. Would you even consider bringing him back if you're the 49ers? It just depends on what they saw behind the scenes from him. He did play well in the Super Bowl, had that rough game, couple of rough effort plays in the playoffs. But Chase Young, again, for the second year in a row, might be available in a trade in the next week at the trading deadline. Another guy to keep an eye on that would be a good fit for the 49ers is Zadarius Smith from Cleveland. Cleveland, you would think, they did win a game this last week against the Baltimore Ravens, but you would think that they're kind of hopelessly out of it. He has 5 sacks on the season, certainly a big addition to the 49ers, who are very familiar with him from the time that he spent with the Green Bay Packers. And this year and next year, he is signed for very reasonable salaries. So that could be somebody that could pique the 49ers' interest if indeed he's out there on the trade market. So those are the names. I didn't mention Max Crosby. I just don't think the Raiders are going to trade him. He's still got a lot of good football ahead of him. I don't know why they would want to get rid of one of the stars in the league, somebody that they can build that defense around. So um, I think the thought is that Max Crosby will not be dealt at the trading deadline. And even if he were dealt with his future salaries, I just don't know that he would fit into the mix as far as what the 49ers would be looking to spend, both what it would take draft pick compensation to get him and also the price it would cost on the salary cap in future years. Because you got to remember, 49ers have a lot of guys who are coming up. I mentioned two of them, Diamador Lenore and Charvarius Ward. Talanoa Hufanga is scheduled to be a free agent, as is Dre Greenlaw. With those two guys' injury histories, though, recent injury histories, they might sign 1 year deals, kind of 1 year prove it deal. So, it could be that the 49ers would prioritize bringing back Dre Greenlaw on a 1 year deal. Hufanga now, I think the 49ers are in a position where with Malik Mustafa and Jair Brown, I think they're kind of set at that safety position. So, also Aaron Banks is a free agent. Boy, I just don't see him coming back because he's probably going to get some big money deal on the open market. Offensive linemen who hit the market often get significant money just because of how difficult it is to find offensive linemen in the draft. And then, of course, when you talk about the rising salaries for the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk's big money doesn't kick in for a couple of years, but with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey, all those contracts and more feature rising salaries on the salary cap. And then, of course, there's Brock Purdy, who has played his way into one of the big money contracts in the NFL. So that's why I don't see the 49ers committing much money down the road to anybody that they would acquire in a draft or in a trade. In fact, I think probably Christian McCaffrey is the only player that they've acquired at the trading deadline that they wanted to keep around for the long haul. And that was kind of seen, from when they acquired him 2 years ago from the Carolina Panthers. I know there was a lot of talk initially. Go back and look at it. People were saying, "Oh, they're renting him through the season because of his contract. They're not going to be able to pay him." Well, they found a way to pay him, and I don't see though that they would add a player in a trade that they would pick up a big money contract for future seasons. Another guy to keep an eye on, not necessarily a pass rusher, because he only has one quarterback hit this season, 0 sacks. That's DJ Jones from the Denver Broncos. He could definitely help out in the run game. Of course, the 49ers know him very well. He started his career with the 49ers, was a very good player on the interior of the defensive line. But now that the Broncos are over 500 with a 5-3 record, I don't think they'll be sellers. So it would kind of surprise me if the Broncos decide to move on from DJ Jones. So those are some of the names that I would think about if the 49ers were looking to add to their defensive line, or are they just happy with Nick Bosa and Leonard Floyd? And are they happy with Sam Okawanu and some of the other defensive linemen that the 49ers have? Robert Beal, who really hasn't yet shown a whole lot as a rotational player, but on the interior with Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens and Kalia Davis and Evan Anderson, is that enough depth for the 49ers? And when you look at their injured reserve list, guys who are not playing right now due to injuries, Javon Hargrave is out for the season, unless potentially they make a deep playoff run and then he could come back. Drake Jackson is definitely out for the season due to a patellar situation that he had the surgery after last season and still not ready, so he's out until 2025. And then the one guy they do expect to get back at some point, Yetur Gross-Matos, a free agent pickup who can play outside in base situations and then move inside to rush the passer. So once again, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe. turn on your notifications, like, comment, all the above. And that's it for now.